what made you want to come aboard Agatha All Along?
I've actually worked on several Marvel shows with Chris Beck, who's a dear mentor and friend of mine. And so, we worked on WandaVision together several years ago. And when they announced this, we're like, well, obviously we want to be back for this. It's such a fun world to live in. And especially her character is just really special. And I think just getting the chance to, be with her again and explore her story.
It's interesting. In WandaVision, she's a hero, villain, but not at the same time. We're following. Agatha is a little more complex in some ways.
Oh,
You had to
big
hear,
time.
what was the biggest challenge in composing for a character that's so complex?
Great question. That's something that we were really struggling with at first because it's, with superhero stories, you're used to a certain sound or palette or a certain way the music represents that. And when we tried those ideas, it didn't work. And so, we had to take a step back, take out the French horns, take out the trumpets, take out these things that are typically associated with superheroes and, really find out what is actually more important for her character. And, we're on a journey of understanding her trauma and the pain that she's felt throughout her life and all these broken relationships. And so how do we represent that? And it has to have this intimacy and this tenderness, but also, as she's on a quest to find her power, it needs to reach that zenith moment of where she's back and she's got her purple and she's you can't stop her.
So it must be kind of fun where you're breaking rules, so to speak, but you have to really redefine your own rules. That must be creating the art. So for you, going over the whole season, what was like building your own rules and creating that whole sound?
Yeah, so I think we kind of had lived in two different worlds, and so there's kind of the overall sound of the show, of the road, and this. Once we kind of nailed down that that witchiness and this dark, it's not the superhero sound, but we found this more unique, organic, broken sound for that. And then as the characters are going through these different trials, all those touch on very specific genres. And so now we're taking these themes and main ideas that we've developed, and now we're transforming them as the Coven's going through these situations. And in episode 4 when they're having the psychedelic sort of experience, now we have guitars, we have sitar, and we have instruments that you're typically associate with that sort of genre. And so each episode sort of is informed by that.
All right, so was there any particular scene or sequence where you said, this is really hard, really challenging, but you were so excited and it felt rewarded, we pulled it off?
Yeah. Honestly, I think probably one of the hardest scenes was in episode 1 when, that's the episode where it's kind of making fun of the true crime TV shows.
Yeah.
And it's this very dark synth world. And then towards the end of the episode, Agatha gets to the morgue and she goes through this transformation sequence where she sort of peels back her different layers and physically peeling back her different costumes from WandaVision. And musically, there was a struggle. That's the first time we have orchestra in there up until that point. And how do we hit all these moments of there's some comedy in it, but there's this tension, and how do you balance between those two emotions and really find this satisfying ultimate moment where she's back into her original costume. And it took a lot of versions, but I think we finally found something that worked well, and now it's one of my favorite cues.